8-1. 8-1. We stand at the top of our division. Guys, this is so surreal to me. I didn't really know what to expect going into the season. I expected big things, I'll tell you that. I expected better play from our quarterback. I expected to have a great defensive line with not only Fletcher, but with the addition of Barnett. And honestly, I just wanted people in there that could complement the skill that Fletcher brought to the table. And, well, I expected some decent play by our receivers. And I have been pleasantly surprised on all cylinders. Let's talk about defense. Despite personally playing defense during high school, I tend to be more of an offensive guy. I tend to, analyze the offense more, and I'm a lot better at analyzing the offense. But let me tell you something. I absolutely love this defense, and I love the kind of system that Jim Schwartz has put in terms of defensive line. Defensive line, I think, hands down, is the best in the NFL. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they have the most sacks or the most tackles, but I think they're one of the best in the NFL. Because these are guys, Fletcher's having another just standard Fletcher year, just going, dominating, sacking the crap out of quarterbacks. But I really like this defensive unit as a whole. I love Fletcher. I've seen Derek in on a few plays. I'm liking some of the other guys we got. Guys like Bradham. I can never remember his first name for the life of me. Bradham's been playing very well. Vinny Curry. Didn't really know much about him until this year. And of course, Brandon Graham. We have so many guys who just the way we load up that line. We got skilled guys that are in the trenches for us. And I love that. And personally, I still think we have one of the better rush defenses in this league. Biggest example I can tell you is that for the first half, we held Kareem Hunt to under 30 yards. Eventually he broke out on a few big runs later in that game that kind of screwed us over. That was our only loss, by the way. But we've done a good job in terms of keeping running backs in check. One thing I have to give compliments to is that secondary. Primarily Jalen Mills. Jalen Mills, who was a 6th-round pick, I think 2 years ago. He is my MVP for this defense. Not Fletcher, Jalen Mills. Almost every time there's an interception, you're more than likely going to see Jalen's name. Against San Francisco, he had the amazing pick 6 return. I remember there was one pick he had where he pretty much caught it off a fly ball, of what looked like catching off a fly ball. I'm going to take a quick look here. Okay, defense. Where is he? Jalen Mills. Here we go. So far this year, Jalen Mills has 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown. He has 34 tackles and 9 assists. I mean, it's just, Jalen is the best player in that secondary. And it makes me so happy that I can actually compliment the secondary. Because for the past few years, that's been our biggest point of contention. That's been our Achilles heel on this defense. Now, this is by no means a perfect group. It's not. These guys aren't perfect. I've seen them give up big pass plays. I will say this though. As far as I've seen, these guys are pretty good when it comes to the 50-50 ball. Where the quarterback just kind of throws it up and it's just between receiver and cornerback. Now, of course, like I said, I think Jalen is the MVP of his defense because he's making that secondary great. He really is. Oh, excuse me. He was a seventh round pick last year. Pardon me for the silence. I'm trying to collect myself. Here, oh dang! I forgot to mention Chris Long at defensive end. Yeah, again, bear with me. I'm not very good when it comes to defense. This year, Fletcher has a forced fumble, 4.5 sacks. Fletcher's Fletcher. Fletcher's just playing great. This is a really good defense. Now I'm gonna say this though. Let's go back and take a look at every game. There was a big reason why I was so skeptical with this team because look early in the season. We beat Washington, who's a competent team. We lost the Chiefs, a good team. We barely beat the Giants, a bad team. Barely beat the Chargers, a bad team. But then we go and crush the Cardinals. And then we play the Panthers and beat them. And we crush the 49ers and crush the Broncos. But notice how notice how we only won by 3 against the Giants, only won by 2 against the Chargers. Now for the Chargers game, I know the Chargers kind of scored, one of those deals where they score a late touchdown. But I was very skeptical early in the season because this defense was giving up, double-digit points. Well, not just double-digit, but giving up pretty high amount of points to bad teams. Meanwhile, on offense, we were barely beating these guys. Let's talk about the Chiefs game real quick. For the longest time, people were so skeptical about the Eagles because we lost to the Chiefs. 27-20. That was a defensive match from beginning until the third quarter. It felt like almost no one could get offense going. Again, we held Kareem Hunt to, I believe, under 30 yards in the first half. Unfortunately, second half, primarily fourth quarter, their offense exploded. However, I walked away from the Chiefs game with very positive opinions. Because these guys did not give up. They didn't give up. They took the ball down, scored with like 14 seconds left, and then they got an onside kick, and Trey Burton tipped it up and recovered it. We lost the game, but by God, we fought for that. We fought for that. Next week we play the Giants. And, first half defense shows their brilliance. We got these guys in a goal line stand at the end of the half to prevent them from scoring a touchdown. Unfortunately, we had another collapse on defense. Allowed 2 touchdowns to Odell Beckham Jr. We let him back in the game. Of course, Jake Elliott hits a 61-yard field goal. And I have to give it to Elliott. He comes in. Well, if you remember, Cody Parkey, to me, was the kicker of the future. Then he gets hurt. Caleb Sturgis comes in. He misses an extra point in a game against Washington. We lose that game by like 1. I don't trust Caleb. But then he was, from what I remember, he was decently consistent throughout the rest of the year. And he became our kicker. And Cody Parkey, I think plays for the Dolphins now. Parkey was shipped off. Now, Sturgis gets hurt. We bring in this guy, Jake Elliott, from the Bengals. And if you remember, he missed a field goal at the end of the half against the Chiefs after Zach Ertz had that amazing tip ball play. I was feeling shades of Caleb Sturgis. Sturgis missed the extra point against Washington a few years ago, and Elliott misses the field goal against the Chiefs. That could have been pretty big in that game. Elliott comes back the next week, nails a 61-yard field goal for the win. Granted, we shouldn't have been in that situation, because not only did the defense give up touchdowns, but the offense was not producing. I mean, yeah, we were up 14-0 going into the fourth quarter. But notice how we're barely winning these games. It's not just the defense, it's the offense not dominating the bad teams. But anyway, going back to Jake Elliott, and he has been so consistent, hitting field goals from 40, 45. I think he had like one or two in the 50s. He is nailing kicks. So expect Caleb Sturgis to walk and go play for the Buccaneers. God knows they need a kicker. The turning point was against the Cardinals. The offense played a complete game, crushed them, put 34 points up, and held them to 7 points. And the Cardinals are probably one of the best bad teams we played. Because Carson Palmer can still be a good quarterback at times. And Larry Legend. You can't argue with Larry Legend. But defense and offense need to play a complete game. And then the big game was the Thursday night against the Panthers. Oh my God, that was probably the worst night to have a swap. I kept sneak watching the game, watched as much as I could. I saw the end of it. We had to stop those guys twice within the final 3 minutes. Because we get the ball back, but then they get a 3-and-out on us. We had to stop them twice, but we stopped them. That was our signature win. Because the Panthers are still good. They're still a good team. Cam Newton is a good quarterback. I've always liked Cam. I have respect for the guy. Despite whatever controversy he's gotten into this year, I don't really pay attention. Because if you look, critics will be quick to point that we played some mediocre teams. And again, that's what made me skeptical. That's what made me skeptical pretty much all the way through week 7 when we had to go play the Redskins again at home. Because we weren't blowing out bad teams. Well, until the Cardinals. Barely beat the Giants, barely beat the Chargers. That made me so skeptical. And let's face it, the Redskins game did not start off well. Got so many freaking penalties in the first minute of the game. And then Carson's biggest flaw. Let's get into Carson. His biggest flaw is that a lot of times he'll just, a quarterback needs to take risks, but a lot of times he'll just throw up these really risky balls that end up getting intercepted. And if you want to see one of the worst throws of Carson Wentz's career, take a look at that first drive against Washington. On 3rd down, starting forever, he chunks one up, gets it to midfield, but then he gets picked off. Of course, we end up coming back with a vengeance. And just, good Lord, Carson has been so good this year. I mean, it's no secret. He's the best third down quarterback in the NFL. And I'm not sure if he still does, but I know at one point, I think after the Panthers game, he led the league. After the Redskins game, he led the league in touchdown passes. I mean, we all knew that Carson was a quarterback who was going to get better as year after year. But the jump from year 1 to year 2, there's such a big difference here. Carson is playing as if he's 4 or 5 years into this league, and he's become an elite quarterback. I'm not going to call him elite yet, but he's playing like an elite quarterback. And of course, and people have talked about how Carson has a great relationship with his coach and coordinator, which you need that. You really do. Let's talk about the receiving core around Carson. Zach Ertz has stepped up and has become one of the premier tight ends in this league, and that makes me happy because I've always loved Zach Ertz. Ertzy baby, as I call him. Or I call him Superman Ertz. But heck, even when Ertz was injured, I think against the Broncos, Brent Selleck came out and had to play, and Selleck was on fire that game. He really was. So not only is Ertz playing so well, but we know that if Ertz gets hurt, we got Brent Selleck. Let's talk about this receiving core. So Ertz is obviously his best receiver. There's no doubt. Because the relationship those two share just is almost unmatched. Now, one thing I love is that, I feel like Alshon Jeffrey, who was such a big game receiver at Chicago, I feel that he kind of had to come in and take on not the superstar receiver role. He's not like the one. He's not getting the ball thrown to him every like 2 plays. But he is playing solid ball. He really is. Because it's not just the touchdown passes, but also just his awareness. For example, to set up a 61-yard field goal against the Giants, Alshon had to make what I think was a pretty tough catch and get out of bounds immediately. And when Alshon does get touchdown passes, usually he makes really solid catches. I think against the 49ers, he had a really freaking good one. Torrey Smith is a long ball receiver. This is where we're seeing some of Carson's big plays. But you know what? When it works, it works. Don't really have many problems with Torrey. Just you're not going to see his name unless Carson's going deep. How about the improvement by Nelson Agholor? The guy who, in my opinion, became a living meme in Philadelphia because it was so fun to count how many times Nelson dropped the ball. This year he flipped the script. He's starting to become that big game receiver that we drafted him for in the first round. Nelson is on fire. I am so impressed with how much Nelson's improved this year. I'm gonna pull up his stats. 5 TDs, 29 receptions, 428 yards. He has 5 TDs. This is his 3rd season. He has only 8 in his entire career. That means that in his first 2 seasons, he had a season with 1 and a season with 2. Or maybe season with 0, season with 3. He already has 5 this year. 5! He has stepped up. He's been playing incredibly well. So impressed. So proud. Nelson, you're no longer a meme. At least in my eyes. Don't really have much to say about the offensive line except for, hey, if I have nothing negative. My thing is, if I have nothing negative to say about something, then that usually means that they're doing their job. Let's talk about the fallen real quick. The biggest guys who have fallen this year are Darren Sproles and Jason Peters. Jason Peters needs no introduction. He's pretty much a living legend in Philadelphia at this point. Pro Bowl offensive line. It was really, really sad to see him go down. But I'm so impressed with the Philly fans because they were all up. They're chanting, clapping, chanting his name. That just shows just how much he means to us. And of course, Darren Sproles went down. I do need to talk about the running backs. I haven't talked about those guys yet. But Darren, I love Darren Sproles, and I'm sure everyone in Philly does. He's one of the best things to come out of the Chip Kelly era. Because when I see Darren, he's not the biggest. He is smaller. He's small as heck. But you better believe he's going to go out there and give 110% every time, every play. To see him go down was really sad. But at the very least, we have such solid running back play. First off, LeGarrette Blount. When Doug actually decided, maybe I should hand the ball off to LeGarrette Blount, it worked. It worked. As I call him, blunt force trauma, Blunt's specialty is just barreling through the defenders. He's so good at that. He's not going to have the stat he had in New England. He's not going to get near that. But I'd say for this year, in the system that we have, he's playing pretty dang well. Let's pay attention to Corey Clement next. Clement is not the superstar back that Blount is. In fact, I see Clement as more of the traditional running back. Usually just the kind of guy who finds holes or gets the outside. Guy who relies more on speed rather than physical strength. I really like Corey Clement. I think that he complements this offense rather well. You give him the ball. Just you can toss him the ball. You can throw it to him. Just hand it off. He's pretty good at finding the end zone. I'll give him that. I like Corey Clement. No complaints. Wendell Smallwood sucks. Moving on. If you remember, I was really skeptical about Jay Ajayi coming to Philly. But if that first game is anything, we probably have the best rotation of running backs in the NFL. Because Ajayi had one heck of a debut. He had a touchdown. He had some... I remember he broke off on one or two really good runs. To have a 3 running back system in which we have 2 superstar backs is great. I wouldn't consider Corey Clement an elite back, but he's serviceable. I don't know if serviceable is the right word, but I love our running backs. And I was very skeptical. I'm like, how come we're not just giving LeGarrette Blount the ball every play? That baffled me. However, this 3 running back system, besides Wendell Smallwood, he sucks, has worked really, really well. And seeing how well Ajayi did in his debut, we got a solid running back core, guys. Honestly, this is a very, very solid offense. And I haven't even gone into all the things Carson has done. His ability to throw the deep ball, his ability to scramble around, avoid sacks, which he's done multiple times. His ability to make the big play. Making accurate passes, his efficiency on third down. That play against Washington. That is the defining moment of this. That's one of the defining moments of this season right now, is that play against Washington where he looked like he was down and he escaped and just ran for it. And Carson's not a bad runner either. He's no Cam Newton, but if he needs to, he's going to run for it. And he's been very efficient at that. And what I love most about Carson is that he loves this city. He does. City loves him. He gives the love right back. Carson is here. He's committed. He's not going anywhere for a long time. I can tell you that. He's not going to be traded for like a Sam Bradford or any kind. Carson is special. Not only that, but you guys realize North Dakota is going to be behind us. You realize that, right? You realize that Carson pretty much brings a whole state of football fans to become Eagle fans. What else do those guys have to root for? North Dakota State, that's it. That's it. Yeah, I just went off on a huge rave about the offense and didn't look much on the defense. But don't look at that as me hating this defense. I already said I love this defense. In the trenches, those guys on the defensive line have been solid all year. Believe me, when those guys bring the pressure, when those guys are so effective. They bring the pressure. And quarterbacks don't do well when they're pressured by these guys. Like I said, very solid rush defense. I think we have one of the best rush defenses in the NFL. This is one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Spearheaded by one Fletcher Cox. Probably on his way to another Pro Bowl. But I still think that Jalen Mills is the is so far the defensive player of the season to the bye week, because he has, to me, he's really turned around the secondary. Secondary still ain't perfect, but it's a definite improvement from what we've had. Definite improvement from Bradley Fletcher at the very least. Whew. So, I didn't bother doing a comprehensive review on the Broncos game just because I took notes on it, and I had stuff I had analysis I could make, but I'm like, nah, we're going into the bye week. We're going into the bye week, so I should probably just talk about the bye week. But now, prime time. It's Cowboys week, baby. It's one of the best weeks of the season. We're coming off the bye. If Andy's regime is anything to go on, we are solid off the bye. Chip's era doesn't count. Chip, we want to forget that era, the Chip Kelly era. An era that had so much promise, I swear. Well, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for right now. Did you enjoy my ramblings? Is there anything I missed? Was this whole thing just incompetent? Let me know in the comments down below. This is Stu. I am the ultimate Philly fan, except not really. And to my Philly faithful, have a good night. I'll talk to you guys after Cowboy Week.